obviously, going ahead, there's going to be spoilers.
Yeah.
We'll be discussing the finale. We'll be discussing some potential theories, maybe.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast, with your hosts, Connor O'Neill and Matthew Hughes.
Hello?
Whoa.
Hello?
Hello.
How are we doing today, everyone?
We're doing great. And we have a guest.
Hello.
A repeat guest. Tim, welcome back to the podcast.
It me.
So this is I wouldn't say long-awaited, but pushed slightly back episode that we had in the works. And that is the Ahsoka recap, review, discussion.
I mean, the last episode did come out just last week.
Yeah, we just didn't do it.
2 weeks ago?
2 weeks.
Week and a half, 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago?
Yeah,
We didn't
Yeah,
do
yeah.
it as a fresh off the rip like we did. I think we did Kenobi. We ended up doing on the
Like,
Friday.
right after the episode, yeah.
This one we gave a little bit more time. Didn't do it fresh right off the rip. That's also due to maybe some people not being done. But that's nor here nor there.
Shut up. I didn't just finish the episode an hour before this.
But yeah, so we're going to discuss Ahsoka. I wouldn't say it's going to be the biggest deep dive, but we brought
No.
Tim on because Tim...
Avid Star Wars fan as well.
What would you say you are on the Star Wars fandom here? Because I feel like we have a good mix. We have Matt who reads some of the books but hasn't seen some of the animated content. I'm the other way. I've seen
the animated
pretty
content,
much all the visual content.
minus Star Wars Resistance, I think.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
not
not missing much there.
none of the books.
Yeah.
But I have seen a lot of YouTube videos kind of discussing a lot
Yeah.
of some lore stuff.
I'm kind of middle ground. I've seen every piece of live action and animated things.
Okay.
Mhm.
Some of them probably more than I should have.
Okay, so repeat watching.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
I sat through Resistance.
Nice.
Fair.
I have read a few novels.
Legends or
Mostly legend stuff.
Okay.
I haven't dove into the new books much at all.
Well, lucky for you, I have a friend that you can just borrow them from.
Right?
Hey, what's up?
Turns out I know a guy.
He knows a guy.
But I've also done deep dives into some of the more weird stuff through Wikipedia,
Wikipedia, fair.
which is the Star Wars Wikipedia, of course.
Yep.
Because of the RPG side of everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you run some RPGs via the Star Wars universe?
I've run Wizards of the Coast, had a 3rd edition and then a 3.5 edition based
Okay, nice.
RPG system, which was really, really nice.
Everyone loves Wizards of the Coast.
Oh, sometimes.
This is not a D&D episode.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about D&D. And then more recently, Fantasy Flight Games has come up with a series of, I think there's 3 now. Yeah, there's 3. One where you're kind of like a Han Solo type character living on the
Okay.
Outer Rim. One where you're an actual like fighter in the Rebellion. And one where you're a Jedi just trying to freaking survive the Empire.
I guess it is just a massive universe. You literally could just be like some farmer.
You literally could do anything.
Just be living your life and be like, okay, now I've been drafted into X army.
Yeah.
And just live that.
The Wizards of the Coast one actually had in their Clone Wars source book, you could run as clone troopers and basically replay the game Republic Commando,
Well, that's kind of cool.
which was dope.
All right, so I would say, yeah, middle ground's probably pretty fair. I'd say that's kind of roughly ish where I'd put myself. I'm definitely not one of the insanely crazy into Star Wars, but I can hold my own.
I like how you're staring at Matt as you say that.
Yeah.
I'm not like...
Matt's not crazy either, though, but Matt has... I think once you delve into the books, it's kind of just becomes its own
Yeah, I think
craziness.
Yeah, it's its own weird rabbit hole.
It's different for me too because like the books, there's all different timelines of the books, right? So we
Yeah.
have like the Aftermath trilogy, which is the aftermath of the Battle of Endor.
Right,
and
but it's
then-
the world and the lore that's built how did we get to where we are in the movies?
Yeah,
What
and
happens
that's-
after them?
That's why I'm a big fan of the High Republic, because it's like
It's so far
150 plus
removed.
years,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is its own entity of
Yeah, it's
Star
almost
Wars.
it's not even the
Yeah,
same thing remotely.
Exactly, it's not connected to the Skywalker
There's
saga.
no Skywalkers.
Yeah.
No mention of that name in the slightest. It's great. I love it.
If you're lucky, you get a tiny Yoda.
Yeah, Yoda pops in from time to time, but then he went missing for half of it, so
Yeah.
they like wrote him out too. And I'm like, this is good. Like 2 of the other characters on the Jedi Council, they're like in Phantom Menace, but they don't even have names unless it's in the credits.
Yaddle and the
Not even Yaddle's mentioned, but it's also the one with the long neck. Can't remember his name.
Yep.
And then there's also the weird
serpentine guy?
snake.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bearded snake man.
All right, very nice, very nice. So we got a nice little baseline
Exactly.
fandoms here. Not
All different
total
levels.
noobs, but not
Yeah.
the people that are ripping everything Star Wars related apart at because.
True.
So yeah, Ahsoka. Okay, so Matt, you've seen Clone Wars.
Most of it.
You've seen most of
Most
Clone
of
Wars.
it.
Okay,
Most
so
of Clone Wars, haven't seen anything of
obviously-
Rebels.
where Ahsoka was introduced
Yeah, obviously.
as Anakin Skywalker's Padawan.
Yeah, from the movie. That's and then throughout the series of Clone Wars. Sorry, I'm butchering my words right now.
Okay, yeah.
Throughout the series of Clone Wars, obviously Ahsoka is the Padawan and stuff like that, which we see.
Which is takes place between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
For people that are maybe
23
unaware.
and 19.
Yeah.
I believe is
BBY, yeah.
But yeah, I'm personally, growing up, I watched the Clone Wars. Was super excited when they brought it back to actually wrap it up. And Ahsoka's always been one of my favorite Jedi.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty basic. I would say my favorite are probably Ahsoka, Anakin, and then Obi-Wan. I mean,
Yeah.
those are. I mean, I know there's a lot of Luke fans, but I just not as big of a Luke fan. Those
Yeah.
are my. Those
You're
are
a
the,
prequel baby, heart to heart.
I really
get it,
am.
man.
Those
We
are
get
my.
it.
Those are my 3. Those are my 3 that I'm just like. I love. I am also. Yeah, no, those are definitely probably my top 3. I would say. I don't know how you guys are feeling, but
I got different answers than both you. So
Yeah, you got some predating answers. I mean, from like, I would say Ahsoka's definitely in my top 3, because she is kind of that, she's the result of the new generation, right? She's
Yeah.
the result of the prequel babies. Dave Filoni.
and that's Dave Filoni's baby.
Yeah, Dave Filoni put a lot of work into creating her, which I can really appreciate. I'm also a huge sucker for Shakti,
Okay.
the other Togruta Jedi, who had, I think, 4 different death scenes in Revenge of the Sith.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of them got cut. And
Yes.
then she appeared.
I've seen all the memes of it.
And she appeared on I believe the Felucia map of the original Force Unleashed game. And then probably my 3rd would either be Obi-Wan or Aayla Secura.
I like Plo Koon as well.
Plo is also
Even
dope,
Kit
as is
Fisto.
Kit Fisto. Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
underappreciated
Yeah.
Jedi master.
But also
for sure.
Plo Koon is also who
Koon's-
brought Ahsoka into the universe.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah,
But he in Clone Wars he's great.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
He actually gets screen time.
He actually gets screen and a lot of a pretty
So
good
does-
amount.
So does
Yeah.
Kit Fisto.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
They
duo.
both got quite a nice amount of
yeah.
development.
Yeah. So going in, obviously I was very excited. Ahsoka being a very
One of your
dear
favorites.
character.
Yep.
But I guess we should just start with how did everyone feel about the show overall?
So from my point of view, because I haven't seen Rebels, I know the lore of Rebels, obviously, but I haven't seen it. So I tried to look at this from like a non-biased opinion of.
Yeah, just give your just how you felt about the show overall. Don't even relate it to
That's fair. Pretty solid show overall. Story was pretty cut dry. Of like, hey, we need to go find these people. Let's go. Cool.
Yeah, like a rescue mission.
Rescue mission style. Didn't necessarily need to be 8 episodes, in my opinion. Like it was pretty solid overall, but like, maybe like 7. Like not that's big of a cut. This plot is slightly confusing if you don't know the lore.
Okay.
So that kind of makes it like, okay, why do we care about these certain characters all of a sudden that we haven't really heard of before? But otherwise, I'd still rate it like for a Star Wars content, battles were still great, story was still great, characters were pretty solid overall. So like for me, it's like a solid like 7.5 to an 8.
Yeah.
Tim?
I mean, having seen all of Clone Wars and all of Rebels, in some ways it did kind of feel like Rebel Season 5. But at the same time, it removed itself from that by not including one of the key characters of Rebels.
That is true.
Which he was missed, but it also made sense. Yeah, I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the story. It felt there was some Treasure Planet vibes,
Yeah, Treasure Planet,
especially
nice.
across
Yeah.
that first half. But everything is derivative of something else. There is no original content anymore, not truly original content,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Facts.
But yeah, there are some great callbacks to stuff from Rebels and from Clone Wars, and some really great nods to just other things in general, and hopefully seeing where this Filoni-verse is going.
Yes, the Filoniverse. Yeah, I would say for me I would probably say closer to like an 8.5. But that's also based on someone who's seen both Clone Wars and Rebels. Yeah, so I guess I can bring us into the big issue with the show, which
Yep.
is that do you have to have watched those series in order to appreciate, enjoy this show?
In my opinion, to enjoy it, no. To fully appreciate it, yes. Because we get introduced to Ahsoka, who we've seen in season 2 of Mandalorian, I believe.
Yep, and briefly in Boba Fett.
And briefly in Boba Fett. You're like, okay, cool. This character exists in this Disney plus Filoni-verse.
Yes.
I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to include Rebels or Clone Wars in this Filoni-verse, even though he was the creator of those shows as well. So we know Ahsoka exists, okay? And then we get introduced to Sabine, who is Force-sensitive, but also a Mandalorian.
Which is weird
Because obviously that's not very common, which we briefly hear about. But also, we just had 3 seasons worth of Mandalorian lore, and this character was not mentioned once, which I know is not overall important.
No, I think we
But-
talked about this off the podcast,
Yeah.
which is that I feel like they didn't know if they were going to be getting a green light for an Ahsoka
For
show
sure.
off the rip. And I feel like if they knew going back to the original Mandalorian,
It would have been
I
mentioned
think
or something.
there would have been some more
Yeah.
just inclusion of like past other characters within
Yeah.
Rebels, just to kind of bring it so when we get to this point, people who have not seen Rebels or have not seen the Clone Wars don't feel as left out.
No, for sure. Because I think with Sabine getting introduced in the first episode, you're like, okay, cool. There's a connection between Ahsoka and Sabine.
I thought they handled
then
that relationship
it was really
decently.
well.
Like you didn't
Yeah.
need to know who Sabine was. You were just like, hey, I know Ahsoka's a Jedi. We saw obviously she's the one who's going to be working with Grogu,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, obviously this person has the ability, is a Jedi
Yeah.
quotations, and can train someone. So you're like, okay, I can accept that. Obviously, this is some sort of Padawan relationship that went stale
Sour,
or
yeah.
sour.
whichever, yeah. But then it's like, okay, so Thrawn, like the thing is, because if you don't know Rebels, you've no idea who Thrawn is. Like,
unless you've read Legends.
unless you've read Legends or Rebels or like Clone Wars, you don't know
Other,
about
yeah,
this
if
man.
you get external other
Yeah,
Star Wars
outside of
content.
the Filoni-verse or the core movies.
Yeah,
And then it's like also same thing with Ezra. Why are we on this rescue mission for
I
Ezra?
think Ezra's the toughest one. I think Thrawn is fine because they handle it in a way that everyone is scared.
Yeah, he's
Everyone's
a bad.
like-
he's
Yeah,
the bad
and
guy.
and he's been brought up before because
Yeah.
he was a big deal for Gideon's plans.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
so
been mentioned
I
before.
feel
yeah.
like he's kind of been built up to be like, okay, we don't want this guy. We don't want to see him return. We hope he's dead.
He is the one thing who can unite the realm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I feel like he's been built up enough, and even I think they did a good enough job with Ahsoka, making it seem like even if you didn't know who he was,
yeah, he's not a good
no
guy.
one wants him
Yeah,
back.
Yeah.
nobody.
But with Ezra, on the other hand,
Ezra's tougher because
it's the first mention of him.
yeah, if first mention of him, if you've never seen Rebels, then you're just like, okay, this is
A dude
a friend
that was
of
a friend
them
of
that's
them
apparently
and stuff.
important enough to
Yeah.
be a general and go against or direct orders essentially.
Yeah.
So
And we have this Teleki, Hera. She's technically
Twi'lek.
yeah. Shows up and she's also part of that group, and you're like, okay, cool.
well, we do get that painting,
We do the mural, yeah,
which
Is a
you see
direct
everyone that's part of
recreation,
this
yeah.
group.
Which
But
if
again,
you-
it's
if you
the-
haven't seen Rebels, you would recognize Zeb and then go,
Yeah.
then watch the show and go, why isn't he here?
Yeah.
But then they throw offline
Yeah.
later on, but yeah, because obviously he's at the end of Mandalorian season 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ezra's just hard to like.
Yeah, certain characters were dealt with. I kind of sometimes I really enjoy just being thrown in and being like, you don't need to know. It's just this is an established universe. This is already going on.
These are clearly people who have worked together
Yeah,
before.
I love when sometimes they do that and you don't need to
Need
know
the
everything,
extra things, yeah.
but it does help, obviously. And obviously, I think that's what heavily impacted the show's performance in terms of its numbers moving towards the finale. I brought this up to Matt, but it's Ahsoka had a drop of 40% viewership from episode 1 to the finale.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's mostly due to the people who are watching Ahsoka are the people who care about Star Wars a lot more than others.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's whether they be the ones who've seen the animated shows or just want to
Continue the Star Wars.
watch all the Star Wars content because they enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is, Clone Wars is pretty long at this point, and a lot of people don't like animated content. They're just never going to watch it. It
Exactly.
doesn't matter how big of a Star Wars fan you are. You're probably just going to, that's not for me.
Yeah.
Which is fair. I mean, that's just, I would recommend it to anyone. It's not a kid show. Parts of it sometimes do feel a little bit more kiddie. Kind of reminds me of Avatar: The Last Airbender that way.
it
First
can very
season
much
is very-
approach those very much like adult.
Where it starts
themes.
off a little bit more kiddie,
Yeah,
and
and
there
it gets
are some
darker.
episodes that are, but it ends up because of probably how popular it was.
Yeah.
They kind of got a little bit more.
Yeah.
Brave.
Yeah, Dave probably got a lot more clearance to be like, oh yeah, no, you can do this. We'll allow this. Well then, because people were gonna watch it.
Exactly.
And yeah, I thought so. For me, obviously the show was really good. I liked it. I liked seeing all these characters come to the small
Big
medium screen.
Yeah.
The medium screen.
The medium screen. There's obviously some Easter eggs that a lot of people would go over a lot of people's heads
Yeah.
if you haven't seen some of the. But that's the same for
Yeah.
Anything. at this
for
point.
anything. Looking at Marvel movies, DC movies,
Yeah.
there's lots of comic references that no one will get if you've
Yeah.
if you've only watched the movie content.
Mhm.
So I think that's just things that are in there for fun for fans. But yeah, the 40% viewership drop off is pretty significant. I think Mando 3 still performed better in the end in terms of total people who watched the show by the
Yeah.
finale.
Yeah.
And I don't think Mando season 3 was necessarily the best.
Strongest,
I
but-
enjoyed Ahsoka more than it.
Yeah.
But that's also because I'm like a huge lightsaber fan. Anything like once there's like people actually fighting with lightsabers and there's proper duels with good choreography,
Yeah.
looking at you, the sequel trilogy, it's enjoyable.
Oof.
There's some solid choreography.
There's
in
some
the sequel
decent
series.
every now and then in the sequel.
Yeah, every now and then. Yeah.
Every now and then, yeah.
One a movie. There's a
Yeah.
half decent sword fight.
Yeah.
So moving on, let's talk about obviously going ahead. There's going to be spoilers.
Yeah.
We'll be discussing the finale. We'll be discussing some potential theories maybe that everyone has. But I want to get one of my both trying my hardest to understand, but also ended up being definitely a dislike in the moment. And that is in the season finale, Sabine's sudden ability to wield the Force like
in an impressive manner.
like a proper Jedi.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm the only one who was like, but I was not a fan of that, especially since early on we see she can't even move a cup.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do have an answer that I kind of just thought of that makes a little bit of sense for that, and it involves one of the other big reveals that happened in the finale, and that was the statues of the Mortis gods,
Yes.
Yeah.
and that
I have
Paradia
the Mortis. Yeah, is that like
is
a
a force-rich world.
Force-rich
and
world? Could be a
enhanced
potential.
her.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like where they are is the new home of the Night
It's
Sisters.
the
and
original
stuff.
home of the Night
That's what I
Sisters.
thought. Yeah,
Yeah.
the original home.
Yeah. Obviously, if you want to be like, okay, we can obviously discuss the fact that yes, force sensitive area. So maybe it's just a lot
It's
easier
similar to Dagobah
to
in a lot of ways.
to just be able to connect and pull that out. The other thing I've talked with Matt about was she found her friend.
Yeah.
That's a huge stressor, anger, point of anger, et cetera, et cetera. That's now gone. So maybe that's helped her also connect more. Obviously, if we want to pull the big BS card, we're talking about Tara Vizsla.
Yeah.
She's obviously related to him in deep down her
Extended-
generational line.
extended Mandalorian history.
So-
and Clan Ren is a Vizsla house. Yeah.
So we could be like, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
The dormant ability is there. I'm really not a big fan of the ass pulling of how extreme it is.
Yes.
0 to 100, quick.
Very quick. We've never really seen her use the Force. I enjoyed when they opened, when Ahsoka's asking her to help open the door with Ezra when they're under the starship.
A little bit of extra oomph.
Yeah, to be like, oh, every little bit helps here.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's fine. And I would have liked it if she used it to get her lightsaber back, and that was the big
it.
moment.
Yes, that was her big force
Force moment.
Yeah.
That would have been acceptable. I could accept, okay, she's in a dire moment here, needs to pull something out, and she does it.
Yeah.
But the force push for Ezra, that was where I'm just like,
It wasn't even really a force push. It was more of a force levitate.
yeah, basically
True.
just full sent him.
He jumped his way across and then just fell.
Why didn't Ezra also force jump?
He did.
It was not a very significant
That's how he
force
got
jump.
that far.
I think he can force jump a little further.
I would hope he could at this point.
Especially, like, what's he doing? He was probably doing a lot of meditating. He had to have been doing a lot of meditating.
It's been what? We're at least 6 or 7 years after that end of Rebels, so yeah, there's probably quite a bit of meditation. No, longer than that, because the end of Rebels was before New Hope.
Yeah. He had to have been doing a
Yeah, so we're
lot.
looking at close to a decade.
But yeah, that was definitely where I was like,
Yeah.
But like you said, there are reasons.
In-universe reasons that could explain it.
Yeah.
Could
But again,
explain
if you
it.
don't know the lore of that stuff, then
Yeah,
it's
you don't
like,
know. If you don't know it, then it's like
The
You don't
biggest ass
know,
pull
now you
ever.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So that was definitely one of my massive dislikes towards that.
I think just in general with like, it was really cool to see the Night Sisters more live action.
Yes.
But like the whole Dathomir thing, like if you don't know the lore of that, you're like, oh, these are just weird witches that
Yeah, they didn't really
weird
do.
Force witches.
They really did just expect you to know about
who they
Dathomir.
were. Yeah. Like
Even-
these are like important,
even
even
if they
like
could have
Maul and
just-
stuff.
Yeah, they should have just referenced anything, like said something about the planet where Maul's from.
Yeah.
They could have given something.
Yeah.
Because we've had Morgan Elsbeth
Yeah.
in Mando, right? That was the whole point of the Ahsoka episode of Mando.
hmm
And she didn't mention that she was Death Miri at all.
No, to be fair, it wasn't confirmed until this season.
Yeah.
Like it was referenced that she had connection to Night Sister, obviously.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if you don't know that lore, then why do you care about these Night Sisters? Why is the grandmother?
Who are they?
grandmother-
Why do they have
Yeah.
such BS power? Blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. Yeah.
What's their fancy magic about? Why is there magic in Star Wars all of a sudden? I know it's
Why
the Force,
does Thrawn
obviously,
care so much about them?
pleasing them and using
Yeah.
the dark magic of the
Oh,
Night
he's just going to
Sisters.
use the crap out of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
Like, it's more of, well, I guess it's a win-win because obviously there's going to be the resurrection of the Night Sisters. But
Yeah.
also it's probably going to end up being his new army that,
Obviously, the whole Death Troopers and
Yeah,
so
we
on and
already
so
saw,
forth.
we already saw part of
but,
the true power of the Night
Yeah.
Sisters.
and the other negative, it's funny that this is all happening during like the season finale, which is
That's what I
like,
mean. The buildup was
it's
so
kind of a drop off, really.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the other issue was when Ahsoka is in combat with what's her face, the one Night Sister.
yeah, Morgan.
We're talking about a very well trained Jedi.
Yep.
In terms of like combat, lightsaber combat, and she just could not hold her own. And I was like, "What is happening here?"
Which, to be fair, if you're used to going and coming at people with light swords and you come across a flame blade, that would put me off a little bit too.
Well, it put you off, but we've seen the flame blade technically already.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, in Clone Wars.
but
Yeah.
maybe not necessarily
But it's-
Ahsoka.
Yeah, Ahsoka wouldn't have seen it.
But it's still technically the same style
It's
of
a-
combat. It's just, I don't know. For me, it feels like at Ahsoka's level now, I would expect Padawan Ahsoka to have trouble.
I could see
But
that, yeah.
but we're talking about, at this point, you could argue she's a master.
Yeah, arguably so.
So I don't know. I felt like it should not have been as troublesome for her,
No, I don't think so either.
especially losing a saber too.
Losing a saber and also just like in quotations being enlightened after everything that has happened recently.
Yeah.
And she's just been chilling. And we see her training in the ship before she
Yep.
gets there too.
That's the thing. It's not like Ahsoka's rusty.
Yeah.
She's been fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, literally, she just fought Anakin.
Several different versions of him.
And Anakin ain't no slouch.
No,
No.
sir.
So you would think that she should be really fresh. She should be freshly trained in terms of some combat.
Which I do got to give some props while we're kind of talking about Morgan a little bit. The actress that plays her, Diana Lee Inosanto,
Yep.
her godfather, Bruce Lee.
Interesting.
Oh, dang.
So she has a fantastic history with martial arts.
Martial art.
and blazing
Yeah.
weapons,
Martial art blood.
Yeah. So
That's why.
that's the secret. She was raised by the dragon.
But of course.
Yeah. So that was just, I wouldn't say it was bad, but just kind of
Yeah.
weirdly disappointing. Obviously, it's to fit the narrative, build that suspense, but
Also, yeah.
part of me didn't like it. But that's also because I like Ahsoka. So I'm
But
just
no,
like,
you're right though.
I-
She should have been
I
able to do that a
expect
lot
better.
faster.
Yeah.
I expect better. But
Her fight against Balin
yeah,
makes a little bit more sense.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, typical fallen Jedi survived Order 66, became evil kind of situation.
Well, and just his fighting style.
Yeah, exactly.
He is, and I remember reading about this in like right after that episode came out. He is much more the traditional medieval knight,
Yep.
wielding his lightsaber as a broadsword.
Yeah,
also-
he had a very
Unique style.
Darth Vader-esque style where he
In a
was
lot of
lot
ways,
of
yeah.
brute strength,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There is a nod
the-
to the certain shot of
Yeah,
the way
like
he's
the
fighting.
big slashes
Yeah.
down,
His also
Whereas-
saber wasn't
Over-
entirely red.
overpowering.
No, it was orange.
It was an orange lightsaber.
Yeah. It wasn't a completely corrupted
Yeah.
crystal.
And we see that through his indirect development
Yeah.
of him like wanting to fight, but then he's like, nah, maybe I shouldn't. And like
No,
it's
and he still had a lot of respect for
the
his
Jedi
past.
ways.
And what Ahsoka stood for.
Yeah.
He couldn't
He-
respect her.
Yeah, he was a very good character.
Which is unfortunate that we're not going to see more of him.
We might.
We,
I have
we
in my
could see more
notes.
of the
He could-
character, but not
Yeah.
sadly, Ray Stevenson.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ray
Ray
Stevenson,
Stevenson won't be-
phenomenal.
There
job
could
of that.
definitely be a recasting of
Yeah.
him because his whole ditching his Padawan seemed very something else. Maybe
Yeah,
talking.
they
to
definitely
him,
set up
leading
something.
him to.
Yeah. Especially where he's standing at the end.
Yes.
Because
So-
we have gotten references from the beginning, a lot of references or Easter eggs, if you will, of something whispering to Ahsoka. A lot of people assuming that it's the son,
Yeah.
which, if you're not familiar with, we're talking about that's Mortis, right?
That's one of the Mortis gods.
Yeah, we have the
That's
the son, the daughter, and the father.
But the daughter's destroyed at the
da-
end, the statue.
The daughter
well,
is
the
Ahsoka.
The daughter, yeah.
Ahsoka dies on the planet, and the daughter ends up saving Ahsoka,
By
and then
sacrificing her life.
that's why when we see like the owl always following Ahsoka,
Yeah, I
that's-
noticed that.
that's
Yeah,
that's the
I knew
daughter.
that, yeah.
the Morai.
Yeah, so that's like the
I knew that
the
part,
symbolism
yeah.
of kind of like the daughter watching over
Yeah.
Ahsoka. And yeah, so we hear what a lot of people are saying was probably the son that was whispering to Ahsoka.
But it could be something else.
It could be something else, but that's what the big
Yeah.
fan
Yeah, the
theory
big
is.
fan theory.
Obviously that could be related to why he ends up dipping, because maybe
He's
there's
getting those calls too.
temptations or
Mhm.
someone telling him to come. But yeah, there's obviously that's probably the big enjoyed or wanted fan theory, is that we will see Mortis in
Mhm.
live action, or start to see more of the impact of those Clone War episodes on
the grander universe.
yeah, on the grander universe. Whether that is how Ahsoka ends up perishing or leaving or taking a stance as the daughter per
Yeah.
se.
Becoming a living force
Yeah.
entity.
Because the big thing is in the Clone Wars that what I both liked and disliked these episodes in the Clone Wars, because I thought it was so overly literal
Yeah.
of like, Anakin, you are the chosen one. You have to balance my good daughter and
good
my
and the
bad
darkness, yeah.
and my
Yeah.
bad son. And I did find it to be a little bit babying
Yeah.
of the Star Wars kind of lore, because I enjoy the Force being its own like ups and downs of like
an ebb and flow of
yeah,
yeah.
I didn't really need a god planet to be like, this is how the Force works.
and that was kind of what that was mid season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like in a lot of ways that story arc kind of conveyed the possibilities that were open to them.
Yeah. And I don't know. Obviously, Star Wars, now we have time travel. It's
Displacement.
displacement.
Yeah,
Because they don't really ever change anything, which is kind of nice.
yeah.
What a nice twist. Having
Time travel that doesn't
time
change
travel where you actually don't change anything, because
What?
everyone's smart enough to be like, I can't actually do anything.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yep.
Amazing. But it's cool that they can still have impact in a different way. But yeah, I don't know. I both like the whole concept of Mortis, but then I also am like, oh, this feels so babied and literal. And obviously, yeah, Ahsoka dies and so forth, so forth. But I've been seeing a lot of fan theories saying that currently there could potentially be a portal to Mortis where we currently stand, or it's the new Mortis in a way.
Yeah.
Well, how do you guys feel about that? Matt, you're just like,
No, I know the episode that you guys
Yeah.
are referring to when it comes to Clone Wars.
the Paradia could because obviously we see the statues.
Yeah.
So it could potentially be a portal to said,
To the world of Mortis.
or is it the new Mortis, or is it just like where the sun ended up?
Could just be where the sun ended up, like
Yeah.
easily for the. Because we also have to keep in mind that like the next story we're going to be seeing in this Filoni verse is whatever the skeleton crew is.
Yeah, which
Right.
that's the
Really, Jude Law. That's all I know.
Jude Law, and it seems very like
He's a Force user. I think that's all
Yeah.
we know about that series so
he's,
far.
I'm getting the impression he's kind of like Kanan, at the beginning of Rebels.
Okay, yeah.
But it's less like with the ghost and more just they're just scoundrels trying to do things.
The other thing for Paradia is, do you think that there is the potential that there are just other potential portals for them to get to the main galaxy?
I mean,
It feels like Thrawn potentially would have found that on his
You would
evolving,
thought.
but maybe not. I mean, he's not force sensitive.
and I don't think the Night Sisters can access the world between worlds,
That's fair.
which Ahsoka was only able to do from falling off of a cliff.
Yep. In pretty much a
In-
way of
in-
death, if
in
you will.
literal sense.
So there
I
definitely
mean-
could. It seems like a very complicated planet.
Yeah.
there. So
The one that I saw was that that Paradia might have been one of the original homes of the Mortis gods as well,
oh, okay.
and that they contained something within its core.
Hence more of like the statues and
Yeah.
stuff there. Yeah.
And the death of the sister severely weakened that prison.
Okay, I like that.
So there is some. I believe the creature that is referenced in what I was reading was the aboleth, which I don't know what it means to Star Wars, but I know what those creatures are in D&D, and they're not fun members of far realms.
Yeah, I
Kind of
think
like the Nega Purgle, really.
it also would give more of a understanding to why Ahsoka and Sabine are so chill with being like, okay, we're stuck here. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's a little weird that they just kind of go,
they
let's
were
go
almost-
help these guys rebuild their houses.
Yeah, they're almost too chill with
Yeah.
because
The
let's
Noli,
look at
the
how long
Naki.
it took to get
Yeah.
Ezra. But
Yeah.
maybe it's more so of like Ezra's been here. Ezra knows that we're alive.
Yeah.
Like he'll come.
Yeah.
If anything, Ezra comes, but I think also Ahsoka probably looks at it as a way of, hey, this is I'm going to be able to train Sabine a lot more in a much more calming environment. She now knows her friend is safe
Yep.
and
Well,
safe-ish.
she knows he got home.
Knows he got home, which, hey, big check mark.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe the Force ends up leading them to the main universe in some
Yeah.
way. Who knows? I mean, it's Star Wars, so the ass pulls are possible.
It's true. And like the fact that she's there not just with Ahsoka, but also the oldest member of the Jedi High Temple,
Yes, that is true.
right? Because he predates.
Well, and on top of that, we have the amount of things that could happen are amazing because we could have Anakin help Ahsoka. We could have literally any of the Force ghosts. We could
Yeah.
have Yoda. We could have Obi-Wan show up. We can have literally them training both of them, assisting in
Would Liam Neeson return again?
Probably.
but they could literally be
Yeah.
helping
Yeah.
them and guiding them in their own journeys as Jedi and becoming more one with the Force.
Especially if this planet is incredibly Force rich.
And obviously, we saw Anakin. We saw that Sabine felt his presence. Obviously, didn't see him.
But she also didn't have any connection to him
That is also
aside
true.
from Ahsoka.
We could also see where like this could just indirectly be plot convenience for Star Wars, where we have all these Jedi that we know survive Order 66. They survived the Battle of Endor, and they're still chilling around. But not all of them are gonna go to Luke's temple. Like
No.
when Luke's, because meanwhile,
No.
like, so I think if we have the plot of like Ahsoka building her own temple, even
Yeah.
on this distant
On
planet,
Pandaria,
which is
yeah.
Force sensitive, obviously the planet itself. So if we see her build her own little temple where we see like Hera's kid go there, because in theory, Hera's kid is force sensitive, obviously. So in theory, she would go to Luke Skywalker temple, which in theory, he's going to die by the hands of Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
So like almost like if Ahsoka...
All those Skywalkers and the younglings.
And that's all we need is another Jason dying. At the
Yeah,
hands of-
exactly. So I'm thinking like maybe we could see them build their own temple, like even
Well,
like...
that's the thing. Ahsoka has always come off as, ever since the end of Clone Wars, as she's not a Jedi. Obviously, she's a great Jedi, but
Yeah.
in terms of, she already...
Yeah, she's a Wayseeker style Jedi.
She's already seen that the Jedi are a failure
Yeah.
in terms of their teachings are
She teaches more of the way of the Force. And
exactly,
Not so much the way of the Jedi.
which is obviously what Luke ends up learning the hard way.
Yeah.
Where he's like, no, the Jedi way, like, yeah, okay, there are it's like anything. Obviously, there's good things from it, but you need to be able to adapt and change and be like,
Yeah.
and that's obviously one of the biggest issues for the Jedi and why they fell in
And
general.
The fact that Luke's books that he has are books and not data slates implies that they are from when the Jedi Order meant what they were supposed to mean.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I do think that is, if I was to pick, I would definitely want to be trained by like Ahsoka and
Yeah.
be trained more in the ways of the Force. And this is, the Jedi ended up becoming way too political.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And that's part of the issue. Obviously, that the whole trial stuff is, that's, you know, when you, what's a good example? When actors do such a good job that people hate the actor.
Yeah.
Oh, Joffrey.
Joffrey.
Thrones,
Perfect
yeah.
example.
Yeah.
Where the actor is so good at portraying the character that you're like, ugh. That was me during the Clone Wars episode for the trial, where I was just so mad at all of like the council.
Yep.
I was mad at everything else because it was so well written.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
you're just so frustrated because you as the viewer, you're like,
You getting
What?
through this was your
What?
test to become a knight. And it's like,
you're full
Screw
of
you.
Yeah, and you're just like, I just love that Anakin said, like, he's always there for Ahsoka. And proof is in the pudding in even this show, where
yeah.
who shows up when Ahsoka is dying, essentially, but Anakin, and
Yeah.
he's there to train her and be there for her and help her through, even though he is dead.
Yeah. Not even death can stop him from helping her. Yeah.
Like, I just love that he has such a strong connection. And that's why a lot of people love to say that if Ahsoka was the one to go instead of Obi-Wan to confront him when he was basically at that
Mustafar.
becoming Vader,
Oh, yes.
It-
How that would have gone down.
because she was definitely closer to
Yeah.
Anakin.
That's what I would love
And to
about...
Padme, too.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. She knew about their relationship, right? Like she was literally the closest thing to Anakin had to family at that point.
Yeah.
Even more so, I would say, even to
Even more
Padme,
so than even more so than Obi-Wan even.
right? Like that is the closest person to Anakin. So it would have been interesting to see how that, like, you know, if there was like a what if.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, I'm almost... As much as I'd love a what if style series from Star Wars, I'm almost happy that it doesn't exist.
I know, but
Yeah.
some of the
But some of it would be good. There's
Some of
only
it would
ever
be so
been
cool.
one version of a what if Star Wars, and they did one graphic novel, I think, in the early 90s, and it was just like, what if Leia went to the
what if she
dark
went
side?
Yeah, I remember that arc.
So there's
That was a
like,
good
there's
story.
that, but outside of it, I think that's the only what if.
Yeah, there might have been one or two. The 90s were weird times for
Yeah,
Star Wars comics.
there's one other one, which I don't know if it's a legend story or a what if, and it has to do with like, Vader goes missing, so Palpatine finds a new like apprentice,
Yeah.
and then Vader comes back, and it's literally like this kind of competition of like who could be the better apprentice, because he has to pick, right? Because of the whole rule of two.
That's one thing I like about the rule of two. It's the rule of two, but it isn't, because there's a lot of people that use the dark side of
side.
the Force
Yeah.
in their own way, and obviously it
And-
expands to a great amount now that we see that there are so many potential surviving.
Yeah. Well, it's like the
Jedi
Inquisitors,
or
right? Like-
trained-
Yeah, the Inquisitors were effectively apprentices.
Yeah,
yeah, which are using the dark side
Yeah.
of the Force.
I was in a Ventress as well. She
Yeah.
was Dooku's Padawan. Like it's
Yeah,
Even to an extent, Grievous.
yeah,
Grievous, yeah.
Could be considered a... He's not
indirect.
Force user, but he
He's
is
still
definitely a...
but everyone's a Force user, technically, via George Lucas.
That's true.
Everyone
Metachlorians
can
exist in everything.
everyone
yeah.
can access the Force. It's just
But-
your innate ability to access it is
If,
more of a
if Grievous had been
more of
accessed
his
by
alien.
Dooku when he was more humanoid...
That warrior
Yeah,
really was.
when he was that warrior species and less robot,
Yeah.
Could he have been force sensitive then, and that's why he's so good with lightsabers?
I feel like that's probably like a Legends question.
Oh, that's definitely a legend.
Oh, it definitely
gotta
is.
be,
And that's
right?
part of the fun of Star Wars, right? You can always ask these cool questions and what ifs.
Because I believe his species did have like
Yeah, probably a wave. That's
force
probably why they were so
sensitivity
good
potential.
with combat, right? Is being able to
What were the Khalif?
perceive, right? Because that's what lightsaber combat is. You're like becoming one with the force and the flow, and in a way, you're also kind of seeing the future. That's why you're able to block things, right? That's how they explain it.
Yeah,
Like
that's what it is. It's,
your
it's a
ref-
slight
it
temporal
looks like
manipulation.
reflexes, but you're really just
Yeah,
seeing.
Their classification is reptilian,
really?
which is very unique to me.
Yeah,
Well, I
reptilian.
mean, Trandoshans are.
Oh, this is
reptilians.
Grievous's face before cybernetically enhanced.
Yep.
So,
I feel
a
like-
species of scaly red-skinned humanoid reptilians from the planet Kali in wild space.
Oh, okay. That's why they're so rare, because the wild space is freaking nuts.
But yeah, I did the Ahsoka and Anakin scene. I thought that was really.
Seeing Hayden Christensen in that Clone
Yeah.
Wars armor.
But I thought it was just really touching because it really
Yeah.
is like Anakin really is. He really sometimes obviously he's bad in some ways.
Yes,
Obviously, but
but in his heart.
in his heart, he always meant the things he said.
Yeah, he's definitely like the whole reason he was able to be corrupted is because he was trying to do what
A very
was
emotional
good.
character. Yeah, he's a very
Yeah.
complicated character, but also easy to understand at the same time.
Which
But
the whole cinematography for that World Between Worlds sequence.
oh, it was beautiful, and
I
the
think-
fact that he cuts the path because everyone's always talking about Ahsoka and like, oh, she's the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker, and she,
Yeah.
you know what happened to Anakin Skywalker, and blah blah. And he cuts the path, and it's like create your own path.
Yeah,
You don't have to follow
you
the
don't.
path
You don't
I'm
have.
on.
Yeah, you are everything that I was, but you are so much more than that.
Like, wow, the imagery was fantastic.
And I think it was Kuyan Tran was the cinematographer and director of photography for that one.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, because they had two cinematographers across the whole series, and it was just beautiful work.
Beautiful work. And just having Anakin also reference like, hey, I am the light, I am the dark, seeing him both be the Anakin she remembers from the Clone Wars, and then him
Having the
converting and
flashes
showing
of-
like, hey, if you don't want to live, then, and then he goes,
And you won't die.
Then,
Yeah.
then this guy can come out.
yeah, and then the Sith Lord comes out,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
like, holy, like,
See the transition.
in just the
I love how
flashes
they use a lot of Anakin's like going back and forth from light and dark, like past
Yeah.
the original trilogy to make it a much more the complexity of
More concrete, even.
you can use the dark side. I mean, a perfect example is Luke uses a force choke in Return of the Jedi, right? That is not something
Not the
that
way of the
Yoda,
Jedi.
that
Well-
Yoda would be like, yeah, that's totally good.
You can choke people,
And
that's
like
fine.
the whole reason they justified Mace Windu's purple lightsaber when Samuel L. Jackson's like, I want purple,
Yeah,
was that he could tap into the dark side but not be felled by it.
exactly.
So
And
he had just that little bit of red in his blue crystal.
it would have been amazing to see on this is now another what if, but like peak Anakin being able to tap into that dark side power, but also not be corrupted. Because he really is like, there is truly no Jedi like him in terms of power, and
Yeah.
obviously the Darth Vader is kind of a nerf to him in a lot of ways, right? Like Anakin's his
That goes
lightsaber
to show
ability.
the cybernetics
That's true.
deafens your connection to the Force.
Deafens your connection to the Force. Obviously, also it was not the most state of the art on purpose to
to minimize that. Palpatine did it on purpose. That's
yeah
why he's
to torture him in a
constantly
way.
using-
Yeah, reminds him of obviously what happened, and then
Yeah.
obviously wasn't comfortable, which then makes him more angry, ergo more
which makes
dark side.
which is why
power.
he lives in the egg half the time.
Oh, Star Wars.
Yeah.
I wonder if George Lucas, when he was coming out, that was realized like just how,
No.
because sometimes
No,
he
not
says
at all.
interviews and he's just like, oh yeah, yeah, and you're like,
Did you though?
George, really though?
But then, like, at
Really?
the same time, we talk about One Piece so much with Oda. So, like,
Yeah.
And I guess you're not wrong. Yeah,
that's the big question, right? Like, is George Lucas and Oda, in my opinion, are on very similar levels when it comes to world building.
I guess the thing is we don't know. Like we know George has a bunch of people that are part of that inner circle, right? Like you look
Yeah.
at Dave,
Yeah,
and,
especially now. Yeah.
like Dave is his Padawan.
It's literally
Absolutely.
Master and Apprentice.
They have referenced that in interviews that Dave Filoni is
the Apprentice.
the apprentice.
Yeah.
And he is amazing. And
Yeah.
he has there are some faults, obviously. He's not perfect, but he has created and helped develop George's world into something greater I don't think George could have done by himself.
No.
Where Oda, that's where Oda, it's like, okay, who do we look at for Oda? We look at potentially the Jump editors.
Yeah.
They have a much larger impact on a lot of series that people don't understand that they do. They're the ones who will be like, you make a draft for a chapter, and they'll be like, no, you can't. This we don't like. I don't think this will work with fans.
Well, I
blah,
think
blah.
George's wife would be that person when it came to the original.
In the originals, yeah.
But it's like for Oda, I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Could
We
be
don't know the
editors,
full-
could be assistants.
Yeah.
It could just be him. Also, at this point, how much do editors have, or are they just like?
Or are they just gone, all right.
Are they
We
hands
got it,
off?
Oda. Here you
Piece is
go.
big enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
does the editor just show up
Yeah.
to read the script and be like, "Yep,
Good enough.
good enough. That looks like that's fine."
This will get you through those 37 pages we needed. Gotcha.
Yeah. But that's what I mean, right? Like it's George. I don't think definitely didn't think it was going to become this big of a phenomenon, especially when you look at the timeline of when the first one came out. Like,
No.
you know what I mean? So
I know the world's. It's more obviously it's expanded to a point where he can't say like that's where he expected things, but
But even from like an actor standpoint, I don't think if you were to tell during the New Hope that Anthony Daniels be like, hey, basically 50 years from now, you're still going to be putting this
You're gonna be
this
in this
yellow
damn suit,
gold robot suit on.
Which
And
his cameo.
Great,
That's
great.
So good. It
That
was
was
so
good.
well done.
Yeah. It just
perfect
came out of
place.
nowhere, but you're like, oh, like a C-3PO.
And it
cool.
makes perfect sense based on where they were and what was going on.
Exactly.
and the person that helps him, Leia.
Exactly.
And Leia's connection to
Yeah.
the Ghost crew.
I am very happy that we didn't get some CGI Leia.
No, I like that
No,
it was
I like
just
that a lot.
simply like
Yeah.
I respect that on multiple levels because A, it wouldn't have not been needed. Two, I just feel bad when it's like CGI from people that passed away.
Yes.
how irritating was
Like-
that one senator though?
Oh, he
Yeah.
was irritating on purpose. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I know.
He's
Yeah.
in Star Wars Resistance.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know he's irritating on purpose, but wow, like what perfect example of just society like reliving their own mistakes.
Yeah.
Right?
History
Like,
repeats
and
itself.
so early on.
Yep. Yep. It's like we literally just defeated the Empire and you want to create a new one.
And
Cool.
yeah, why trust a general who's gone through this whole war and gone through this?
Who was
why,
one of the oldest fighters in the war.
why trust them?
Yeah. And
Because-
actually,
what? Because you think she just wants to save like one friend?
she fought in the last 2 wars.
Yeah, she's
'Cause
impressive.
She was a child in the Clone Wars.
It's true.
Impressive, for sure. And I'm sure has a child that will have a very significant impact in the Star Wars
definitely,
universe. Potentially, obviously, we don't know what they'll end up.
Especially if you look at the Legends source of his namesake.
That is true. That is very, very true.
Because Jason was one of Han and Leia's kids
Mm-hmm.
in the original sequel trilogy.
Yeah, which is
That's the other thing about George, though. He did come up with technically 9 films.
He did.
Yeah.
He did have
6
like,
of them were books.
He did have.
At the time,
he
yeah.
had the idea.
Yeah.
You know, even if Disney didn't want to use it
If
because
Disney didn't execute it the way they should have been.
yeah, why?
this-
Why would you want to use the 3 films that were written by the person that everyone loved the films by?
That's silly.
That'd be stupid.
It's the Rick Riordan effect.
But yeah, overall, I feel like it's safe to say that it was everyone's favorite episode 5 then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't I mean also Filoni directed that episode too.
I just
so,
think-
it
that
just
helped
makes-
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also love that Hayden Christensen's finally just getting all the love he deserves.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, between him getting it through Obi-Wan and this and
Just seeing-
Ahmed Best
Yep.
getting it in Mando.
And I've seen a lot of clips of him just getting like crazy applauses at different expos and panels and
This
whatnot.
just
like-
goes to show you that it's not the actor, that it's the writing.
It's the writing that's terrible.
Yeah.
Which, if you enjoyed the original trilogy, or the prequel trilogy rather, you know that it's not the actor.
You know it's not the actor because
Well, and George, we've seen all the behind the scenes stuff
Yeah.
now, right? We
Yeah.
they're on Disney Plus. You can see so much of the behind. Hayden Christensen's just doing what George Lucas wants.
Yeah.
To a T.
Which, when you're in a room with that man,
you can't
have-
argue
you
with
have
that
to.
man.
Well, he is Star
he
Wars.
is Star Wars at that
So
time. Yeah.
if he thinks that Anakin should have been, which makes sense, a whiny kid. Like I'm sorry, but that's kind of what he is, right? He's a very emotional because guess what? Anakin was discovered when he was a much older child than a normal
The other younglings.
youngling
Yeah.
would be. Because don't even get me started on the Jedi and how screwed up some of the stuff is. But
Infant child moves something. Perfect. We'll take him.
Child is force sensitive. Grab him.
That's mine now.
Grab him.
Grab him, boys.
But that's so they don't have those emotional attachments, and he has that emotional attachment with his mom.
That was the first time he saw that the Jedi Order could fail was with Shmi.
So I don't know. Okay. I watched the films recently, and he is very whiny, but it's not Hayden Christensen's fault. And some of the lines are very bad. Also, not Hayden. I think.
What do you mean you don't like sand?
I think. I also think of like the CGI fruit or vegetable.
The pear cutting.
Oh god.
Yeah.
But I think a perfect example of how good Hayden Christensen is as an actor is the monologue with Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Like, if you can look at that and then be like, Hayden Christensen's a bad actor, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You're absolutely wrong.
Yep.
And I just love, obviously, a Canadian. So I love that he's finally getting the respect, and it's because all of the people that are grew up with the prequels are old enough now to
have an opinion.
I don't want to say other people have passed away either. So there's a large amount of Star Wars fans that maybe aren't with us anymore.
Yeah.
They're part of the Force now.
Rest in peace.
They're one with the Force. And we're the louder community now.
Yeah.
And that's both good and bad because obviously, like any fandom we've talked about.
Well, I'm curious in like 10
there
years
are
from now,
loud
there's gonna be a
minorities.
different because the way we've talked about this too is that 9 times out of 10, the people that enjoy the prequel trilogy that's the trilogy they grew up with. People like us, the original trilogy, for example, like those people that grew up and saw those in theaters in like the 80s and stuff like that. Like that's their trilogy. So those are the ones I think is
And
the
then
greatest.
look at the prequels as bad.
Then look at the prequels bad. Then we have us. We think the prequels is like the best of the trilogy.
Where,
that's kind of our age group.
And I'm kind of in that middle ground. Like when I was a kid, I would watch the original trilogy with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
When I was in grade 12, I went to the midnight showing of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, so you had the opportunity to go. It's like you almost grew up with those two. And now we have the younger generation that are like, yo, this new trilogy was great. And you're like, but it's not.
You're wrong.
But okay. But again, our parents would be the same thing of like that prequel series trilogy is stupid, it's garbage.
Older coworkers.
Same situation.
We had definitely had some
controversial conversations.
Yeah, with older coworkers who would say, no, the prequels
but
are
I think
so bad.
I could easily see in like 5-10 years of kids growing up and be like, the Filoni verse on Disney Plus, best Star Wars content.
Star Wars, yeah.
I can see that, but I can't see the
Sequel trilogy, no. They're definitely saving their butt when it comes to Disney Plus stuff.
The Disney Plus stuff is kind of retconning it a little bit.
Yes, they are. And I think
indirectly.
Well, Star Wars has introduced a way of marveling where there are potentials for other universes. So maybe we end up getting the original
Lucas's vision.
Yeah, the original envisioned Star Wars.
Won't be to the extent because obviously we've established now that Luke doesn't have kids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Unless we change that, obviously, like you said. But it's like,
well, we can always just have a character that's willing to change the past.
Yep.
Well, and
We haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen a Star Wars character want to do that.
Even in those novelizations, like at the point in where we are now with the Filoniverse, Luke hasn't met Mara Jade yet.
No, exactly.
Right? So it's like there's still that potential for...
I think she gets mentioned in the Last Jedi novel because I think the first chapter is literally Luke living happily ever after, having like a family and stuff. And then it's like, haha, just kidding.
It's that what could have been.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anywho, yeah. Any fun little Easter eggs or anything like that? You guys want to chat before we wrap up? Any other points you got there, Connor?
I just have like kind of like where we're headed, right? We have, so obviously we have, what is it? Pretty much 4 of Force sensitives that are now on Paradia.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what are they all going to do?
2 former Jedis and their apprentices.
But now, like, Ezra knows where they are, too.
Ezra knows where they are.
And he knows how to get back to them.
That's what I mean.
We saw Ezra he did escape.
Yes.
So
he is one of the few individuals who can communicate with the Purgo.
Yeah.
So
it's also interesting seeing that Ezra's now basically
Space Jesus.
Yeah. He looked great. I liked
did.
the
He
actor.
looked phenomenal.
I thought the
Actor was great.
I also love when Sabine's like, "Here, take your lightsaber." He's like, "No, I gave it to you," and he's just using the Force.
Yeah. Which using the Force to stop a lightsaber mid-swing,
dope.
It always looks cool.
It looks so cool.
And the sound.
And seeing it in live action, where it's literally like pushing, you can see the back end of the flares off the blade.
They do that really good in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
There's
that makes up for
there's
that
definitely
film.
some cool stuff. And the TV shows have done some things really well.
Yeah.
I had to watch the Darth Vader stopping the ship.
Yes.
recently.
Yep.
Oh, that was great. I really love that.
Yeah. Thank you, Filoniverse, for referencing Force Unleashed.
That was just
Vaguely.
Yeah.
that was just epic. Epic seeing that.
And then for it to turn around and be the wrong ship.
Yeah. But just seeing the power of Darth Vader, right?
Yeah.
That's something that obviously in the books is explained a lot further how insanely powerful Darth Vader is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you get a lot of force choking and a lot of very stiff movements with a lightsaber
Mhm.
Yes.
in the movies, unfortunately. But yeah, I think overall this show was for fans who grew up watching
the animated
with the
Yeah, I would
animated
agree with that.
shows and who
any
enjoyed
of it,
them.
Yeah.
Those were that was the people that were still there for the finale. They enjoyed the show. They will probably swear like me. Like I would recommend the show to people, but that's also because I understand everything going into it. Do I think you need it? No. I would still recommend it to people, but I also recommend the Clone Wars and Rebels to people, so I mean.
Exactly.
But overall, I would say it was a very solid show. A lot of the Easter eggs, a good chunk of them were more just little things. They weren't as not massively impactful, I would say.
Again, like mostly Easter eggs just for nods to Rebels and stuff
for
like
Rebels.
that.
Yeah, just nods to Rebels for the most part.
I do enjoy that they
Obviously, we
brought
saw
in,
Rex.
Yeah, we did see Rex. We were hoping to see him without a helmet.
Yeah, we did not see him
great,
without
but-
Rex. But seeing Rex, like, that's a nice little...
Yeah,
voiced by Morrison, which was
Just
great.
what a
To
great
hear about
character
him back,
in the
yeah.
Clone Wars. But, yeah, it was... obviously, we got to see... It's not really an Easter egg, but just seeing Chopper and him
Yes.
reacting in live
being
action.
on screen for 5 seconds and immediately wanting to commit a war crime. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's Chopper.
Very chaotic little droid, that
Yeah.
guy.
Highest kill count in Star Wars, I think.
That's messed up.
But, yeah, it was...
It's good to see characters come back to, like David Tennant voicing
Yeah,
Hu Yang.
Yeah.
Clancy Brown's character having
Yeah.
live action,
Ryder,
obviously.
yeah. And the
Thrawn.
the
Voice actor for
the
Thrawn is
senator-
playing Thrawn.
And the senator that
Senator
was with
as well.
Ryder was also the same guy.
Yep. So it's good to see characters like having
Seems
voice
like
actors.
Dave Filoni likes his people.
Yeah, exactly.
He's even gone out and said, like, I could not imagine anybody else besides Lars Mikkelsen
Yeah,
playing
and it
Thrawn
looked great.
after that portrayal. And it's like,
Fair enough.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what Thrawn ends up doing, because the ending was a bit anticlimactic in a
little
way.
bit, yeah.
He kind of gets away. Our
It's-
Jedi friends are totally okay with being abandoned on an...
It seemed
planet.
almost like the Infinity War ending, where it's like, we lost.
We know we're building into
but,
something bigger.
Something's coming.
Yeah, I think we'll
Stay
see.
tuned for 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Because we only know what's Skeleton Crew's next, and that's
Well,
don't
we
know
haven't
anything after
seen
that.
what's in the sarcophaguses or the...
Oh, the box.
for,
yeah.
for the resurrection
I'm
of
pretty sure I know
Dathomir,
what
right?
they are, yeah.
So
Stay
we'll
tuned.
see what
Yeah,
goes on
see
with
what's going on
with Thrawn and what army he truly ends up
I mean,
rocking.
yeah, like the for me, I think the one thing that really bugs me is the disinclusionment of Zeb.
Yeah.
My reasoning for that is the exact same reason I have for why Carson shouldn't have been there. Because the Outer Rim's a big place.
It is a big
and
place.
they clearly have crap going on in other places. So it's like, yeah, Zeb's a Y-Wing pilot. I would have brought a Y-Wing pilot knowing I'm targeting something with a big-ass engine.
Yeah, that's fair.
But there's the throwaway line saying that he's training new recruits and
Yeah,
stuff.
but why wasn't Carson doing that? They're clearly based in the same place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Balin, what's he gonna do? What's he calling? What's his calling? Will he be recasted
Well,
and will we see more?
the one thing for me with that, for Balin and the apprentice's name Hati,
Mm-hmm.
in Norse mythology, Skoll and Hati are children of Fenrir.
I did know that, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one chases the sun, one chases the moon, and both of them were chasing something.
Mm-hmm.
And when they catch them, that's the sign of Ragnarok,
Oh boy.
right?
Oh boy.
And we know Filoni loves pulling crap out of mythology.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely. I've definitely seen that fan theory
Yeah.
floating around. I think, yeah, Balin. He's definitely. It definitely seems highly likely that there's something going on with the sun for him.
Yeah.
As for his Padawan, I think the reason he was okay with ditching her seems a little harsh saying
A little
ditch,
bit.
but I think he feels like he's probably taught her everything he can, and I think part of him respects Ahsoka enough that he knows that they're not going to kill her.
Yeah, Ahsoka
Yeah.
wouldn't just straight up
and
murder.
maybe maybe they try and convert her over to understanding not necessarily the full light side, but just being like, hey, this is
There's
this
more
view.
to the Force
Yeah.
than what you've been shown, which
And-
she kind of did in that fight.
Yeah, and I think maybe we see another great Jedi develop.
Yeah.
I do agree with Ahsoka as a whole in the sense that they brought in 2 new characters that aren't in the rest of the lore of Star Wars, and they were written well enough that even though they were the bad guys, they still had a good development. In comparison to Kenobi show, there were certain characters that were original to that, and they just weren't well done. And we've discussed this before. But it's just seeing like the development of characters. I think they learned from their mistakes.
Yeah.
Where they brought in new characters that were like, hey, this is the story.
And they were done
development.
well enough where you could believe that they were just doing their own thing
Yeah,
for
they
the
exactly.
most part throughout
Yeah.
the universe, like
Yeah.
throughout the timeline, right? You're just like, oh, like,
And the
yeah,
one-
there are people that were just force sensitive and potentially lived from Order 66. And yeah, why wouldn't they potentially bring on their own?
And then there's the one theory that Hati trains those mercenaries and they become the original Knights of Ren.
Yeah, that could be a theory as well. Because it's based on the design of them and
Based
stuff
on their
too.
helmets,
yeah,
like they're very Renish.
the Noki. Noki.
Those little turtle people?
No, the ones that she ends up training, like the ones in the red, they
Yeah.
speak the same language, which didn't make sense to me. But
Okay.
I only know that because I watched it with subtitles.
Ah, there you go.
There you
So
go.
because there's always like random other like not Easter eggs, but like understanding because it tells you the language they're speaking, like
Yep.
the Nolki are speaking, and then the people
I think
in
there's
red.
a glitch though on Disney Plus for some
Foreign
of the
languages?
films. For some of the films, because everyone who doesn't speak English is speaking Huttonese. Huttonese. I
Oh,
think.
Hutties, yeah.
Interesting.
Some of them definitely weren't speaking
Yeah.
speaking it. I'm like,
What do-
ah.
What do you mean Chewbacca doesn't speak perfect Hut?
I was really confused at some of them. Where I was like, I don't know, why would they be speaking that language? And it also doesn't quite sound the same.
That's fair.
Okay, subtitles.
The funny thing
I believe
is,
you.
I was watching Ahsoka with subtitles. I think it was like episode 5 or 6, and the caption. Anytime there's music playing, it always gives like a caption for the music, and it was just majestic orchestra ambient music.
Yep.
That was the description Disney
it's always
Plus
the
used.
vibe of the music.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is great. Majestic orchestra.
Yeah.
This is the great way to describe Star Wars music. I think that's how I'm going to describe John Williams. It's just majestic orchestra.
Yeah.
But anyways, Tim, thanks for coming on. It's been a while. It's been a hot minute.
I do actually. I have one question for you guys.
Oh, twist.
That is kind of a
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun,
So-
dun, dun, dun.
as cut the episode. As the series discussed with its in memoriam with the passing of Ray Stevenson,
Mhm.
who would you guys see as taking up the mantle of Baylan Skull?
Mm.
Should Ahsoka season 2 get greenlit? Because I have an answer that I kind of like.
Russell Crowe.
Oh,
It's probably because we
That's a
talked about
good-
the MCU.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I mean. That's popping.
So I have him on my mind.
See, if Christopher Lee was still around, that'd be great. Ian McKellen's too old. Like you'd want like an older, wiser kind of thing, but you still want someone that's got that
that
a
gravitas.
stoic,
Yeah.
great beard.
You can also just pick someone that has a really good beard, really good head of
Exactly.
hair, and then just dye his hair gray and white.
What's your answer? I'm curious.
It's kind of a weird one, and I hadn't thought of it until I saw it online today,
Oh.
but I kind of agree with it. Liev Schreiber
Interesting. That's Sabretooth from the X-Men Origins
from
movie.
the bad Wolverine movie.
Yeah.
But he kind of fits the like
He has
body type
yeah.
and personality
Yeah.
of Ray Stevenson a little.
Yeah, I feel like he could pull off a similar beard and stuff too.
Yeah.
He's got that similar straight face.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like that
So,
stoic.
That stern.
Yeah, like-
That strong jawline.
yeah.
That's what it. That's a
what it
solid
is, yeah.
cast. Yeah.
He had a great jawline.
He did.
Wow. And his beard, like, it was immaculate. I don't know how he's
Mm-hmm.
taking care of that when he's space traveling and going all over, but man,
They got refreshers on spaceships.
he looks great.
Yeah.
What do you got, Matt?
I don't know. I'm still brainstorming.
I know I kind of sprung it on you.
What's
Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman. Who's
Okay.
who's the guy from was it Gladiator or 300? One of them.
Russell Crowe.
Yeah, Russell Crowe.
You literally just said
I
that.
just said that. You're right. See, okay, well then that just shows that I am truly in on Russell Crowe.
I was gonna say 300 would have been Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler would be
Who would also
okay.
accept. I would
Yeah.
even accept. Oh, what was the character? He was in
See,
300.
look at that
Yeah.
beard. That's good.
That's a good beard. I would even accept the guy. He was in 300 and he was also Faramir.
Although Russell Crowe maybe
Lord of
isn't
the Rings.
as in shape as he would need to be, but he looks good.
David Wenham. I would accept David Wenham.
Nah, he's too much of a comedic actor, in my opinion.
What? You can't just say he's a comedic actor and write him off.
No, I know. I'm not denying that. I'm just Gerard Butler would be good.
Gerard Butler, I think, actually might be at the top now for me.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like Michael Fassbender's still young,
Fassbender.
but like he'd do okay.
He's got the jawline.
He's got the jawline.
He's got the jawline for it.
But I think Ron Perlman would be great. Like
Ron
Hulk-
Perlman would be
The other thing
Hellboy?
is,
Yeah.
you can always give anyone a beard. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, that's easy. They did it to Chris Evans. They can do it to anyone.
It's true.
Was that Snowpiercer?
Yeah.
Great beard. Yeah.
It looked great.
Tom Hardy,
I like you. Literally just googled actors.
famous
with
actors
beards.
with good beard. Yes.
Tom Hardy, no, he doesn't have the same look.
He's too stocky, I think.
Yeah, there's like actors that'd be great.
He's
but
too
they're
built for
young.
Bane.
Or that they're too young. Yeah.
Yeah, like Henry Cavill would be great, but he's too young.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he was like 15 years older.
He'd be a good casting for like a different original
Yeah.
character.
Anybody. Yeah.
And I'm sure he would love to be in the Star Wars
Ooh.
universe.
Throw him in the Old Republic.
That'd be dope. Oh, Jeff Bridges. He'd be
I would accept Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges would be
Okay.
pretty solid. It's
Have Henry Cavill be Revan.
Could you imagine?
Oh,
That would drive fans
they would
crazy.
lose their minds.
Jeff Bridges. would be
Bridges.
solid.
Jeff Bridges, that's good.
He'd be a solid one.
From Tron. Yeah.
Tron the Giver, you know. Yeah.
All right.
Definitely options for sure.
Yeah.
But it's like, again, you need that strong jawline.
Need the strong jawline.
And ability to pull off a good beard.
that too.
So I'm out.
Me too, buddy. Me too. But in conclusion, thanks for listening.
Yeah. Watch Ahsoka.
Watch Ahsoka.
I feel like that's the safe
Yeah.
conclusion.
Tim,
Yeah.
did you give it a rating out of 10?
I did not. I feel like I would fall because you gave it what 7.5.
7.5 ish.
I gave
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
8.5.
and you gave it 8.5. I feel like I'm somewhere in that range. Like
8.
I'd give it about an 8. Yeah, I'd
Pretty
take
good.
the median for you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. I definitely say watch it if you haven't.
yeah.
If you're a Star Wars fan, you're gonna enjoy it. I feel like
Yeah.
that's
Sick
that's
battles.
that's the
Hope so.
fallback.
Safe.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, other than that, we look forward. I don't think there's any Star Wars content coming
Not
out
until January.
relatively
January, yeah.
soon.
Skeleton
so,
Cruise
yeah.
January.
So we got some time for Star Wars. We've got
Loki season
that's
2.
going on.
The Marvels.
Marvel's coming out.
Aquaman 2.
Yeah, I'm just gonna ignore that one. But yeah, there's some things coming. There's
yeah.
some things that coming.
Sounds good. Well, thanks Tim again for coming on the episode. It's been a while. Thanks for
my
coming
pleasure.
back.
My pleasure talking about not D&D for once.
I know it's crazy.
Well, we did a little bit.
We
Kind
did
of.
a little bit.
Yeah,
We talked about
mentioned-
RPG a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
at the
yeah.
beginning.
Exactly.
But we got to. You're here.
Yeah,
we got.
it's true.
We got to have at least.
There's
a touch.
always an RPG tie when I'm involved.
Let us know what you think of Ahsoka. If you guys want to toss it in the Discord, we'd love to hear your guys' opinion on Ahsoka. Do you agree with us? Do you not agree with us? And yeah, we'll see you next Wednesday.
See you next Wednesday.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast. Don't forget to join the island by dropping a follow. Thank you. And see you next week.